just want to go back to the fish for a minute. If you don't like seafood, what about fish oil? And I hear that it's got to be very careful, when you buy it, because it could be rancid.
Yep.
How do
Well, I would say probably a large majority of my clients probably do take a fish oil supplement for those reasons, either they don't like it or they're not eating it enough. What I'll say about supplements is that they are not all equal, and there's a lot of junk out there. So what we use here, so they're in the supplement world, there's a category called nutraceuticals, and they're only available to healthcare professionals. They're not sold in the store. There's quite a number of really top quality companies. So we sell very high quality supplements here. So if you're somebody who says, listen, I kind of just want a basic fish oil, what would you recommend? That's certainly something we can do. You can buy it here easily. And there is a cost difference. I'm going to be very honest about that, but I would rather someone took less of a great quality than, no disrespect to Costco, but if it comes in this size and it's $20, you've got to figure it's probably not your best quality, right?
And either you pay for it now or you pay for it later.
Yes, in that sense.
What about arsenic and rice?
It's definitely been a question of late. There's some question, she's asked about arsenic and rice. Is it organic arsenic? Where did it come from? What I have done, I'm a big fan of rotating foods off the bat. So I would say nobody should be eating tons of rice every day anyway. But I've kind of tracked one company called Lundberg. That's all they make. And they have been very current on how they're testing their rice. So I felt like they had a lot to lose if they weren't doing things efficiently. So I've been sort of tracking their progress, and there's some suggestion that maybe the California rice might be a little better. And you can get that. They actually label that on Lundberg. So I think it depends on the person, the frequency, kind of the landscape it's coming into.
We rinse our rice a couple of times before we and I think we also used to do absorption, and now we do boiling it, just in water and then strain it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some different techniques that might make it a little cleaner. But again, if you're a person who's got been tested, you have a lot of autoimmunity, a lot of toxic issues, maybe you want to think about that. If you feel like you're doing pretty well, maybe you just don't want to have it, as I say, every day. So it's a bit tricky overall, I recognize that. Okay, so stress, we talked about a huge factor. So you have to stop bringing all that work home from the office. You're trying to fax from our toaster, right? So there's a big badge of courage for bringing work home, right? We're all like, oh, I worked 11 o'clock last night. It's kind of a backwards thing we have in our culture, that bringing work home somehow means I'm more important, right? Like my job is more serious. And I do it, so I understand. But we talked about this a little bit. I think I gave you a good overview of stress. This one I couldn't resist. It's in the doctor's office. We're trying to make our stress test more realistic for the IRS audit. So, some of the basics, meditation, breathing exercise, biofeedback. So most of us have heard that, and it's a little bit white noise at this point. But let me just say that one more time, that it is probably one of the best interventions you can offer yourself as a very low cap cost way to help all of your health, not just the inflammatory process, but your health in general. There are 8 zillion apps. There's devices you can buy, biofeedback. There's a wonderful company called HeartMath that has some great, these really interactive biofeedback devices. Kids can use them. If you go on iTunes or Sounds True, you can download meditations, relaxations, guided visualizations. Just find a way. So there's a Buddhist saying that says, if you can't find 10 minutes a day to meditate, you probably better find 2 hours, right? Because if your life's so bad, you can't find 10 minutes. So it's a very powerful thing to shut that sympathetic nervous system down so your body gets a pause where you can regroup. And most everyone, when they do that, notices the difference, right? Even just walking out of your office, going downstairs for 3 or 4 minutes. I always say that if you're a smoker, no judgment, but they always get time outside, right? Nobody wants them. They get a break, So it's like, why can't you go outside and, do a 5-minute meditation? So it's sort of, taking that time. You have a question?
What was the name of the biofeedback company?
Heart Math.
Heart Math.
Wonderful company. Do tremendous amount with veterans and retired veterans for PTSD. Wonderful research. They've done a beautiful job of taking biofeedback in its most scientific and really balancing out sort of the spiritual energetic. So, and then exercise. So finding the right balance. So I think you should lay off the Stairmaster and maybe work on your upper body more, right? Balance with exercise is the key, right? So we know now, not that this happens a lot, but I am going to make the statement, you can exercise too much, right? So sometimes people, especially those high-intensity aerobic type things, that's very interestingly, it's oxidizing. It creates a lot of free radicals. So you've got to find a balance. Now the research says now that resistance training probably gives us more, especially as we mature, probably a better intervention than intense aerobics. I'm not saying you shouldn't do aerobics, but if we think about our ancestors, our grandparents, they didn't really run miles, right? They weren't on bikes running like really fast. They did physical work. My grandmother had 4 kids, no running water. She did her on a washboard, right? There you go. There's resistance training, right? So that's, I think, a little more, if we think about it, it seems more intuitive to how we would move with labor. So I think, finding sort of that balanced interval training. So some say that 10, 15 minutes of interval training is better than 45 minutes of an aerobics class, right? Because we're giving those spurts in recovery. So, that's a really important part of the picture. And find something that you like. If you hate spin classes, don't sign up for spin classes. Find Pilates, yoga, walk. Find a good way to do that, because that does help us in so many ways that we talked about before. So if we kind of sum up this anti-inflammatory lifestyle, so really using your food as medicine, right? So eat whole, real food, lean protein, lots of plants. There's my final vegetable commercial, right? Lots of plants, healthy fats. We didn't talk as much about the healthy fats. We talked about the omega-3 fats, but if we think of plant fat, certainly coconut oil, avocado. Kind of the new star on the team is something called red palm oil. So we were all a little nervous before about palm oil, but that seems to be getting some good research. And then avoid sugar and processed foods. That is really our, yes.
And what are the best oils for high temperatures?
Well, high temperature itself is a bit of a challenge, but it seems that coconut oil does well, and red palm oil seems to do pretty well.
Avocado oil.
Avocado oil. Olive oil should be more that medium kind of sautéing.
Grapeseed?
Grapeseed.
Yeah.
Grapeseed.
Grapeseed has got some question marks on it. There's just some people are not sure about grapeseed oil in terms of whether it's pro or anti-inflammatory. I can't say one way or the other, but I've heard some controversy about it. But if you're doing lots of other things, as I say, you probably want to choose for battle. So experiment with some type of an elimination diet. So if you're a person who says, I don't feel fantastic, I don't wake up energized, I feel cranky, I have joint pain, I just feel kind of heavy, in your packets, and you'll get them, of course, by email. I've given you a few examples. It's such an easy way to figure out if diet is having a negative impact on your body, right? You can start simple, or I've given you even a bigger list. Make time for exercise. Make time, not take time, right? Make time, because nobody ever goes home and, we just talked about this today, right? So I love to walk, but you could talk me out of it. If you gave me a lot of money to come out and go home, you could talk me out of it. So what I have to do is I was saying this today, I have to go home, I don't pass go, I don't collect $200, I don't do anything but set my bags down, put my clothes on and go. I don't get my mail. I don't get distracted by any shiny things. I just put my clothes on and go. Because nobody ever takes a walk and comes back and goes like, wow, that was a mistake. We always feel great when we do that. We feel like, yes, I did it. So you just have to kind of just decide. Because I think all of us can talk ourselves out of exercise. And then the piece about unwinding, relaxing, find a way to unplug. So, I'll just offer this. So some of you may feel like you've got your whole story, this is just what you came for, and then maybe you've got other questions, you feel like, I'm a little complex, I have a few things going on, maybe you've tried a few dietary interventions or things and you haven't quite hit the mark, so you may want to consider a session with me. We do offer everyone a free 15-minute consult. If you feel like, I'm not sure, but I'd love to have a conversation, we can do that. We can even set those up today if you're interested. And one of the things, I made the reference initially to the Institute for Functional Medicine. So, nutrition is really the core of functional medicine. I have a bias as a nutritionist, but I think it speaks volumes about a medical perspective that's saying we've got to look much broader at the whole person, and diet is such a huge piece, right? It's the one thing we're doing every day, all day.
Is it true that medical doctors in the United States don't even have nutrition as part of their curriculum?
I believe they have 3 credit hours. They're trying to change that, though. So I worked for several years with Dr. Mark Hyman. He's gotten involved with the Cleveland Clinic. The Cleveland Clinic actually came to him and said, hey, we think maybe our model isn't as perfect as we'd like. Could we start taking some of these principles? So, indeed. And then we're starting a detox in the end of June. We're going to have a kickoff lecture. So it's actually sort of a managed 21-day detox using, as we talked about, very high quality, nutraceutical quality. Just have some shakes, but it's whole food based. So if anyone's interested in that, you can sign up. You can sign up on our website. And I think that's all I have to say. Does anyone have questions?
Is your detox gluten-free?
Yes. 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 And then I'll come to you.
Okay.
My next
Yes.